yeah, growing up, I never really had a lot of friends. So now it's just very jarring to me. When I was thinking about this the other day, I was just like, damn, like, I have people that I can call for like anything now. Like, I don't really have to do anything by myself anymore. Hi guys, welcome to my podcast, Simply Said by Mel, aka me. This will be my very first episode, so please allow some leeway because I'm still figuring out what this podcast looks like. But thank you guys for my first listeners. You guys are officially day ones. But before we get to all the topics, I'll just get to let go of all the formalities. Like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as follow me on Spotify. I think I'll be uploading on both of those, hopefully. So let's just get straight into it. Question for this episode: is being outgoing the cheat code to winning at life? I feel like when I was growing up, I was very introverted. Like, I did not like talking to people at all. But now, I wouldn't consider myself a social butterfly, but I would consider myself as a person that loves meeting new people now. And I talk to people all the time. And compared from now, I definitely have grown into a person that not necessarily is not antisocial anymore. I wasn't antisocial when I was growing up, but I'd say I was just more reserved, kept to myself compared to now. As you know, starting this podcast, now I'm an open book. To battle that question, let's just start with being, what is an extrovert? What is a more reserved introverted person? So I feel like being outgoing, textbook definition. Standard stereotype. I think being introverted and being extroverted is a spectrum. I think it can be both. I think I'm a little bit of both now, but I'm just a little bit more extroverted. But being outgoing, I feel like starting with being more outgoing, I feel like as I've grown up, I have a lot more friends now. Step one, I have a lot of connections, and I just know exactly who to reach out to for any occasion. But back to my point of introverts, I think they're a little bit more relatable. Also, I'm talking about this in a very general stereotypical way, but I feel like if you're more reserved, I guess you have more time to know who you truly are, who you truly are without the presence of other people, who you are if you're not performing for everyone else. So I feel like extroversion is good at getting you those connections. So I guess it is a cheat code to winning at life to a degree, because networking is everything these days. Literally, I wish I was born a rich nepo baby, because I feel like that's literally living life on easy mode. Well, obviously nepo babies have problems too, guys, but but I feel like obviously you will have less struggle getting into whatever industry or getting into the spaces that you want to be in, because you already born those connections, so you're technically already got your foot in the door. So I'm talking about, is charisma and being outgoing and a social butterfly the key to getting what you want? I feel like if you're good with people, definitely 100%. I think it does. I mean, if you're more outgoing in general, I feel like that'll help you to a certain extent, So I feel like you also do need that relatability. You need to pick up on people's sense of humor. There's just so much to think about when you're interacting with people, right? Like, I was thinking about this the other day. Whenever I talk to people, I tend to. Okay, I used to be a big doer of this, right? I used to like psychoanalyze every conversation I had. Well, not every conversation, just like the meaningful ones, Of like, oh, did I do something wrong? Did I do something right? I'd always feel like, mainly, I always felt like I did something wrong if they didn't give me the reaction I wanted, or, if I said a wrong thing and I didn't laugh. Like, that stuff would keep me up at night sometimes, like, genuinely. But obviously, I've gotten a lot better at that now. It's very hard to, not take things personally whenever if another person is just having a bad day. I feel like I struggled a lot with it, not taking it personally. It's being like, oh, they're taking it out on me, so it must be my fault. But It has everything to do with them, or that they're just having a bad day. Like, it happens to everyone. But anyways, but circling back to what I said about it's more common to be introverted. I feel like everyone nowadays is a lot more guarded. Maybe I'm from Melbourne, right? Especially when I entered uni, or interacted with people from uni, a lot more people are a lot less open to meeting other types of people that they haven't interacted with before. um like I don't really see people going out of their way to interact with other people that they don't typically hang out with. Like, they wouldn't go hang out with, like, I see less people branching out into different friend groups rather than sticking to like the same stereotype of person, if that makes sense. For example, when I was on summer exchange, the uni group, like the uni cohort that I was in, we kind of all fit into archetypes that I've seen in high school. So, you got like the normal people, and then, the kind of a little bit gossipy, a little bit bitchy people, and, and the normal people. Yeah, that was like the main archetype when I was in high school, but that was ages ago. Anyways, this kind of ties in to what I've been thinking about people who tend to have more individual friends, so individual relationships. So I'm saying, like, you have good one-on-one relationships with people, but it's from different places. Like, I was thinking about this the other day. I have a friend from media class, I have a friend from PR class, but it's like a one-on-one friendship, so they're not really tied to my other main friend group. So what I'm talking about is individual friendships versus big friend groups. What's the difference with that, guys? Yeah, I've never really had a big mixed gendered friend group until recently. So I'm kind of talking about this kind of newly. Like, this opened up a new perspective for me. So I've always been a person who's had a few strong friendships. So I'll have one or two people. I've always been the type of person to just have not really be in a big friend group, but more so I'd had different friendships with people from all over the place, right? I'll have friends from what an old hobby I used to do, or from a uni class, or from wherever else, right? So I'd have different one-on-one friendships with other people that don't really, overarch with each other. So that's why it's super hard for me to throw a birthday party, because I don't want to be shoving one person with other random people that I've met because they have completely different interests, because I was just all over the place. So back to the question, is being outgoing the cheat code to winning at life? It depends what winning at life for you kind of means, I guess. I mean, if that means you have so many friends that you can't keep count, go you. That's totally valid. I mean, that's not everyone's cup of tea, but it's not necessarily wrong either. That's not necessarily a bad thing either. And other people's goals will look different to your goals. But in my big friend group now, I feel like I'm exposed to a lot more different archetypes of people, because I just think it's interesting to see my dynamic of a personality with other people that aren't typically like me. Because I don't know, I just think it's so interesting to see. Like, in my friend group, we have all different personalities. We have all different. I mean, they're mainly from uni, but we all study different things. So it's like, oh, I'd be interacting with people who I would never study what they're studying. Like, I don't know the specifics of their life goals. Like, their life goals look completely different to mine. And that's not a bad thing. I love seeing that about people. I love hearing what other people have got going in their lives. So I do think that exposing yourself to different archetypes of people by being outgoing, I feel like that's a very good thing to do. You can meet all types of different people, learn all types of different perspectives, and overall, I feel like being friends with them has helped me learn so much about myself. For example, this has always been a thing in our friend group. We'll have, whenever we've all been to a function, typically when one of them drives us home, we'll sit in their car until for a few hours. One time we're in someone's car for about 4 hours, I think. We're just talking about life. We're just talking about everything. And genuinely, I feel like from those group talks, genuinely have altered my brain chemistry. It exposed me to like a completely different perspective of how I've been seeing it my whole life. For example, my love life is kind of a mess right now, in 100% complete honesty. Not really going well. But my friend, he's in a very loving, stable relationship, and he just spoke about her with so much respect, so much love. I could genuinely like the way he talked about her was so beautiful. It genuinely made me believe in love again. Even though I was like, the past couple months I've been like man hating so bad. I've been like, oh, I'm so done. Well, I've just been complaining, right? I've just been like, oh, I'm so done with this. I'm so done with all of this. Like, I just can't do it anymore. And generally, I do still feel that way sometimes. Like, it does feel shitty to, like, see. Sometimes it does feel shitty to see other people in stable relationships. Yeah, and you want, so you feel like you're missing out on things. But generally, the way he talked about it changed my, like, brain juices. Because I was just like, damn, like, if a guy ever spoke about me like that, I wouldn't even care about the other things, I wouldn't care about materialistic things. I wouldn't even care about his, I wouldn't necessarily care about his looks. I wouldn't necessarily care about his financial status. But if someone spoke about me when I wasn't even in the room, genuinely, I would that'd be the one. But anyways, getting kind of off track. So yeah, in a nutshell, being outgoing to a degree, it exposes you to a lot more. It opens up your entire new world. But you also need that aspect of introversion to, foster those relationships, I feel. Not saying that extroverts who focus more on, quantity of relationships, having no substance. But I feel like if you're more introverted and guarded, you do have, obviously, I've said before, you spend a lot more time with yourself. So, hopefully, you do have a grasp of how you want to present yourself, how to, talk about yourself, because you fostered that relationship with yourself alone. So, you know yourself very well. Yeah, I've also never really had a best friend. I mean, growing up, I low-key didn't have a lot of friends. Like, I had one main friend group of like 5, and then like a couple friends that I never saw like ever. But I mean, I still see them now, guys. I love them. But yeah, growing up, I never really had a lot of friends. So now it's just very jarring to me. When I was thinking about this the other day, I was just like, damn, like, I have people that I can call for like anything now. Like, I don't really have to do anything by myself anymore, which I still value fostering a relationship by myself when I'm alone. Hence, probably this podcast, because I feel like this podcast does help me think about myself a lot more than I already do. Sorry, guys. But yeah, I've never really had like a one true best friend. Like, okay, this when I was like a preteen, this is like my main it was like my main issue in life, right? I'd always be in a trio. Like, I don't know what was in the air, but from primary school to like early preteen-ish, I was just always in a trio, and I was always the one that was left out. Like, it's so sad. It's so sad to think about. But yeah, like, I'd always be the one that was like left out and had to like partner up with someone else, or conveniently left out. Or like, I got so used to it, I would just purposely be like, oh yeah, you guys can just go right ahead. You guys can just go do that together, and I'll just like, I'll just chill here. Yeah, that was my preteen life, but obviously it's gotten a little bit. I still don't really have a best friend that I tell everything to. I kind of I do definitely have a lot of close friends, but I don't really have a favorite, obviously. Like I don't really have one singular person that I'm closest to. The closest I've ever had to a best friend was having a romantic partner, but obviously I'm single now, so that didn't really work out. So were they truly my best friend? But I've never really had that sense of closeness of a best friend with one person. Beside, like, the closest I've ever been like that was with, obviously, like, ex partners. I mean, I guess that's probably why they ended, because I didn't really feel like a best friend. Yeah, I've never really had a consistent best friend that's lasted, that's had the longevity of, like, until now. I've never had a best friend that's lasted until, like, now. Until since I was, like, what, younger? Until now, right? Which is what I typically view as a best friend, as someone who you've been friends with for years, who you tell everything to. I've never, and, like, have little sleepovers, and you know each other's parents, everyone, like, you're practically the same person. I've never really had that, because I feel like I've I go through phases a lot, and whenever I go through these phases of growing into a new personality, I outgrow the people that I'm initially friends with. So I necessarily won't really match up with my current group of friends anymore, and then I'll, like, move on to the next one. So it's kind of hard for me to have. It's always kind of been hard for me to have one consistent best friend, because I go through so many phases in life where I'm just constantly changing. So it's kind of hard to keep one person that can be compatible with all of the different versions of me, have one person that generally accepts me through all the phases of my life. Not saying I do have friends I've been friends with since primary school, since high school. I'm still friends with them. I still love them, obviously, but I've never had one singular person that's outlasted all of that. And back to being outgoing, I feel like that kind of correlates with faking it till you make it. Because is being outgoing inherently just putting a polished version of yourself that caters to a wide general public? Like, I'm talking about creating a public persona that's more likable, because I feel like outgoing people are a lot more likable, obviously, I feel like, in society. So but to a degree of how truly extroverted you are, I feel like that kind of varies on person, but I'll just speak personally. Most of the time, I am faking it till I make it, because most of the time I don't really feel like talking to people. um, Most of the time my social battery is kind of just bleh, and then I'm kind of just, like, saying words, and somehow that's landed me with the people I have today around me. Obviously, love them all, but to what degree of a public where of oh my god, to what degree is your public persona kind of intersect with who you actually are? Kind of varies on person. But I feel like now, speaking from a normal person, like a normal general perspective from mine, right? I feel like I can't really hide my emotions. So if I'm tired, you can low-key tell I'm tired. And yeah, if I'm still being outgoing, still chatting to people, I do genuinely just want to talk to them. But I think fake it till you make it, I feel like I only do that in corporate senses where, obviously I have to network. And that leads to kind of my next question. How do you network as an introvert? You kind of have to, kind of varies on person, but for me, I feel like I have to play into the relatability aspect. So, I have to find what they like, or, like, pick up what they like, pick up what they value in life. And yeah, overall, just having substance. It doesn't really matter whether you're extroverted or introverted. I feel like inherently, if you have substance or if you have a general sense of critical thinking, obviously, I feel like being introverted or extrovert doesn't really matter whether you want to win at life or achieve your own goals. I feel like you can do anything whether you're more reserved or more extroverted. But yeah, inherently, if you have a good relationship with yourself and you have substance, and like what I mean by substance is that, you can hold a conversation, you're funny, you, I mean, if you're generally just a nice person, a nice, polite person, I feel like even if you're more reserved or even if you're naturally just more outgoing, I feel like you'll just deliver it in different ways. Maybe you'll be slower in opening up, or maybe you're just an open book. But I feel like inherently, as long as I think it kind of ties down to your relationship with yourself. Because if you have a good relationship to yourself, I feel like that translates to how you speak about yourself. You can very obviously tell how people feel about themselves by the way they, speak about what they're going on and speak about their life. And yeah, with speaking to people, at the end of the day, if they don't really fuck with what you're saying, they're just not your people. Unless you're saying some problematic shit, then that's a different story. Then I get why people are probably, staying away from you. But speaking in general sense, if sometimes you're just speaking to the wrong crowd, sometimes people won't laugh. Sometimes people won't laugh at what jokes you're making. Sometimes people just stay silent and, don't really hold a conversation or just say one-worded responses to you. But at the end of the day, you just need to find the right audience or the right people. So, coming down to the original question, is being outgoing the cheat code to winning at life? I would say to a certain extent. I would say it is a lot easier to get what you want being an outgoing person because, you need connections and everything right now. But I also feel like being introverted is kind of underrated. Like, necessarily not being more outgoing or being more reserved is better than the other. But being a little bit more reserved, you tend to have closer, more intimate relationships because you're focused on a smaller variety of people. So yeah, final answer. I do agree that being outgoing is kind of the cheat code to winning at life to a certain level. But I feel like at the end of the day, you also need substance and relatability in order to keep those connections to win. And yeah, that is the end of my very first podcast episode, Simply Said by Mel. Thank you so much for listening, and make sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel as well as follow my Spotify. And thank you guys for being my very first listeners on my very first episode. I love and appreciate you all. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!